All right, so we've got our source here. So it is by default. I'm just going to turn off the Fireball import here so we're not viewing that. So you see by default here that under the create burn, we're creating this burn attribute. By default, the burn and the temperature field are being animated here. So that's why we're getting that big fireball. I'm going to break those connections. So I'm going to shift, control, select, break those connections. I want my own emission going on. I'm just going to leave those at 1. So we're going to constantly be emitting a burn and temperature of 1. But also I want to add density. So I want to constantly emit big density. So let's just add another attribute here. And let's type in, you can choose a preset, density, or you just type it in there. So let's add density. All right. So now under the volume rasterize, we need to make sure that we're going to rasterize that density as well. So let's type in density. All right, so I want to work on our emitter a little bit here. Let's go to our noise, and I want to make sure that we're adding a decent amount of noise. So under the attributes that you want to add noise to, I'm going to add in density as well. So if we select this little check, this visualization box here, we're going to view our noise channel here, which, oops, I accidentally put a W in the group, so we're not seeing it. All right, so what I want to do is have more of a sharper fall off from our density. So I'm going to bring up our ramp here and then kind of bring it up near the ends. That's going to create a really sharp kind of fall off of our density there. And then we've got some scale parameters. I'm going to bring this up to 0.75. So if you're wanting to get like big billowy areas of smoke, since this is going to be animated, we're going to go up here and select animated. You can see what's kind of happening. Obviously we're changing our emission here. But if we wanted big areas of billowy smoke, we could easily turn this scale up so we get big patches of disappearing areas. That's going to create some real big kind of plumes. If we had a really small element size, this would give it a lot of smaller breakup. So that's just one thing to note. I'm going to keep it at a 0.75. And all right, so now let's go to our rasterize and how we're rasterizing these particles here. So I just want to, you can see our breakup here, maybe reduce the particle scale a little bit. So we're really getting some holes in there. So we're going to know it's going to be nice broken up emission. All right, so what I always want to do is to make sure we can add in some velocity off of these points here. So I'm going to throw down a point velocity. And this is where we can add in different velocities and curl noise from the emitter itself. So if we just select the display point trails, there's nothing on there at the moment. So if this was animated, we could add the velocity off of the emitter from the animation. We can add separate velocity going up in every axis. What I only want to do from here, and to really get some good breakup, we really need to add some extra velocities off the emitter and have control over that. So I'm going to add curl noise. You'll notice that we can now see our velocities here. So this is a great way to break up emission. If we just kind of turn the scale up so we can see those velocities. There we go. And now really we can kind of change, you know, where this is going to be emitted. And this will just emit it in so many different directions, give it big plumes. So this will really change the look of the emission here. So for this, I want to make sure to get some smaller breakups in the emissions. So we're going to be kind of emitting all over the place, and it's going to be animated. And also, I don't want to really emit that strong. So I'm just going to Just going to turn the scale down to 0.5. So that's going to help with that breakup. And then we're going to be able to use that to kick the fluid out a little bit. All right, so now we're rasterizing it. And now we've got our out node. Okay, so now let's kind of set up some basic parameters for our pyro. If we just kind of go into our simulation, let's go into our voxel size, and let's do a little bit more of a starting resolution, maybe 0.2. And you'll notice that you'll remember we added density off the emitter. So all in the volume source, you'll see that we're adding in our burn attribute and we're assigning that to the flame attribute. And then we've got temperature in the temperature field. And then we've also got burn, adding that into the divergence field here. Okay, well, what we're going to do is take this down to kind of what I'm more familiar with working with. So I'm going to just add in these parameters. Temperature, let's add that in. You know, I know that we're working off a shelf tool, so I just want to take things back to what I'm comfortable working with. So I'm just going to add in those fields like previous versions of Houdini. And then the burn divergence will greatly increase the scale and the fuel and all that of your explosion. So let's just take everything down to 1 for now. All right, and then finally, I'm going to add in a specific density field because I want to make sure we've got a lot of smoke. So I'm going to type in density, and it's there if we want it. Oops. Going to add that in. And finally, our velocity. Let's add one more field. And this is a vector attribute. We're going to type in V, and target field is vel for velocity. And I don't want to add that in. I just want to copy that velocity over. And that's it. All right, so let's just let's throw down a gravity in case you want to put something in there as well. But this is more your traditional pyro setup from previous versions of Houdini, but yet we're using the sparse solver. So let's just kind of play this and see what we get. So we've got a massive explosion, and it's definitely too much, but it's going to keep just emitting on upwards. All right, well, let's just kind of set up some initial parameters because this is way over the top here. So if we go into the pyro solver, first thing you know is obviously everything is way too much. The reference temperature is too much fuel. So what I'm going to do is kind of take everything back a little bit. Under the expansion, I'm just going to reduce this to 1. So everything's not going to expand so much. And I know that there's just a ton of what we would previously call fuel, which is our burn and divergence field here. That's going to be way too much. So by reducing this, we're greatly reducing the amount of burn that's going to be expanding. And then we've reduced the expansion quite a bit further as well. So now if we play this, the whole thing is pretty much not expanding. There's not enough, quote, fuel, or not enough burning off there. And so you can see that we've got a great emission. We've got those classic mushroom cloud going on that we're going to get rid of. But now we've got a standard emission, and it just keeps emitting. But we've got good noise in the emitter. We've got velocities coming off. You know, and we got some breakup already in there. So pretty much this is going to keep emitting up. So that's a good starting point. All right, so in the next lesson, let's just keep working forward. We'll add in our collision and keep changing some of the parameters.